After Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 9 gave us the end of one era, it also gave us the end of a relationship that we've been captivated by for many years. But it includes a departure that might not be completely final if we think about where this story is going. In this video, I'm going to be discussing whether we've seen the last of Kim Wexler, alongside giving you my brief predictions on Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 10, due to be released next week. But before I get into it, if you want to see more videos on the final season of Better Call Saul, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex Videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my thoughts on whether Kim Wexler will return and my predictions for Season 6 Episode 10 of Better Call Saul. So in the latest episode of Better Call Saul Season 6, it was all fun and games until it was over. The episode ended with Jimmy McGill transitioning into the criminal lawyer known as Saul Goodman following the breakup with his wife Kim Wexler. It happened inside their apartment, where they also witnessed Lalo killing Howard, and it set up the very symbolic death of Jimmy with his sudden turn into the sleazy man we know from Breaking Bad. The episode also answered a big question that we had from the beginning of the series, and that was, where is Kim Wexler during the events of Breaking Bad? The heartbreaking answer was that she was out of Saul Goodman's life, quitting law and leaving Jimmy. We got a flash forward to moments soon before Saul Goodman takes on his new clients in Walter White and Jesse Pinkman, but with us now reaching those events, it gets us asking whether Kim Wexler will return at all during the final episodes of the show. The ending to her character in the Better Call Saul timeline felt final for that period, but with 4 episodes left and Kim being a major part of this story and the story of Jimmy, to me this doesn't feel like the absolute final goodbye. And some new interviews also add fuel to that very idea. Michael Morris, who directed episode 9, stated, "The key part of the beginning of this episode is the creation of Saul Goodman's office, and it's tasteful and it's being assembled. And then what happens at the end is a rejection of all of that into the absolute embrace of what Saul Goodman would ultimately become, the deeply most Saul Goodman you can be, which is how we end. We wanted to tell the story that the snapping point for that was this. That without Kim, the Jimmy we know ceases to exist. But while Kim may currently be out of Saul's life, this doesn't mean she's out of the series completely. With 4 episodes left to come, another eventual flash forward will give us the answers towards what happens to a very paranoid Omaha Cinnabon manager, Gene Takovic. Last time we saw Jimmy's post-Breaking Bad identity, he was found out. Cab driver Jeff, who's recently been recasted as Pat Healy, recognized Saul, and it ruined the identity set by Ed the Disappearer. He put the phone down on Ed, saying that he will solve it himself, and we've been wondering since what that would lead to come the end of the show. We haven't seen the last of Jean, so does that mean that we haven't seen the last of Kim too? Could she actually come back into the picture in the black and white Jean timeline that will close out this whole universe? Ray Seahorn was asked about this in an interview a few days ago, and she responded with, "I can't say if we see her again, and even the fans that were savvy enough to figure out when I was in Albuquerque and when I was not, we shot a lot of stuff out of sequence, whether it was locations or whether COVID or whatever. So there was no telling when somebody rapped or what that meant in the story. So I'm not going to speak on whether or not we will see her again or in what capacity. I will say that it's devastating the decision she makes and the end of the relationship, the Jim and Kimmy that we knew, and her practicing law is its own ending no matter what. It's painful, and it was a terrible punch to the gut when I had to play it. Obviously, she's not allowed to say whether she would be coming back, but I must say her comments do sound quite hopeful. If she wasn't coming back, then she could have said she wasn't without no hesitation, but she chose to say that she can't speak on it right now. So based on those comments, I think we are going to see her again in some capacity. And like I was hinting at before, I think we're going to see her in the Gene timeline rather than the Breaking Bad era that we've just entered. Of course, Kim had survived the Better Call Saul narrative without dying, getting put in jail, or any of the other worse outcomes that we theorized, and that alone has me thinking that this is leading to a potential return in the events with Gene. While Kim ends their relationship, she admits to loving Jimmy, and she left him because she believes their partnership was too destructive and poisonous for people around them. Whatever we see in the Breaking Bad events in Better Call Saul, I would presume that, like what the creators have said before, it will change how we see that show and also what comes after. Jimmy McGill of course changes into Saul after the departure of his partner, but he then conspires with Walter White in unprecedented ways within the criminal world, and this leads to both of their lives being ruined. He's experienced enough bad in his life, and with that trailer from a few weeks ago hinting at a potentially happy ending, it makes me think that we might get something bitterly sweet between him and Kim. Maybe they overcome their destructive desires, or maybe, as I predict, Saul will do one more destructive thing to help Kim move on. Better Call Saul Season 5's Gene cliffhanger is yet to be concluded, and it looks as though he was finally ready to stop running away and handle his problems. Maybe he knows that Jeff could potentially exploit him, and maybe we find out that it could lead back to Kim too, who by the way could very well be in the same state that Gene's in after Breaking Bad. I don't think Gene and Kim will restart their romance because that chapter in the Better Call Saul events feels complete, but I do think that he will do something that involves her in this timeline. I think it would be touching to see Jimmy own up and tell Kim that he'll never change, but that he knows that she can change for good, as seen with her moral compass in the past episode when she left Jimmy for the better. The damage has been done as far as Jimmy is concerned though, because he goes on to become Saul and becomes even more affiliated with this dark lifestyle. So how bitterly sweet would it be if Saul recognized that and in the process helped Kim get free from the crossfires of future danger? I'm not suggesting something that is explosive like in Breaking Bad's finale, rather one final con, action or nuanced moment that helps clear Kim from an issue that he escalates during the years since she left. I think that would be a fitting way to conclude things, but until we see those last 4 episodes, your guess is as good as mine. One thing I will say with confidence though, is that I think we will see Kim Wexler again in some shape or form. But in the mention of what we might see in these last 4 episodes, I come now to my brief predictions for Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 10. The next episode is titled Nippy and is being directed by regular Michelle McLaren. The teaser we got for this episode is of some location being used to potentially sell Saul's clothing and items, and Saul's voiceover is being used to guide people into going through with that. We're guessing that this might take place in the Breaking Bad era, sometime before he went into hiding as Gene. I can't imagine them doing Breaking Bad scenes for 3 episodes, and I think they would want to condense that story or whatever we learned there into an episode or 2. I think it's more likely that in the next episode or 2 we would see a transition into the Gene timeline, and they use the events of the Breaking Bad timeline to set up exactly what the ending is about. There is of course plenty that Saul could have done off screen in Breaking Bad that is worth seeing, and it could give us the added context and meaning to what we see with Gene. Or the other option is that we might get a mixture of both Saul and Gene in all of these remaining episodes. My guess is that we'll see one episode with the Breaking Bad era footage setting up exactly what we'll continue with in Gene's timeline, and it gives us the Walt and Jesse cameos. And then in the last 3, I think think we'll see the resolutions with Jean and a reconnection with Kim, who's in the trouble of being linked back to all the stuff we previously saw. There's a lot of routes they could take with it, and after the way the last episode ended, it really does make me intrigued towards what direction they will eventually go in. But hopefully at the end of the day, it's a fitting ending that really gives us some final powerful messages surrounding the character we followed for many years. But they were my thoughts on a potential return for Kim Wexler and my brief predictions for Better Call Saul Season 6 Episode 10. I'm really excited to see what the showrunners do with the next few episodes, because there's so much mystery surrounding how the Breaking Bad universe will all end. Like I said before, now that the Better Call Saul timeline has wrapped, there must be something in the Breaking Bad timeline that becomes important as we transition into the Gene one. And this could even link into a return from Kim. These writers wouldn't just throw in a nostalgic episode just for the sake of things, so there must be something crucial to the story that happens during the events of Breaking Bad. I think it will link into something that happens with Kim Wexler, but I guess we'll soon find out exactly why they've made these decisions surrounding the timelines in the final episodes. But let me know down below in the comment section what your predictions are surrounding Season 6 Episode 10, and whether you think Kim Wexler will return in the final episodes of the series. For more videos on the final episodes of Better Call Saul Season 6, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.